Good morning. Today we're talking about animals and animals all over the world. We want to start with talking about habitats. Now, habitats are where you live or where animals live. There's a difference between your habitat and a microhabitat. No? For example, a microhabitat could be my house. I live in my house. That's my microhabitat. That's where I can sleep. That's where I wake up. That's where I get dressed. It's where I'm doing this video. That's my microhabitat. But really my habitat is more than my house. My habitat is my town, my city, where I get my food, where I work, my neighbors, the bakery, the restaurant. That's also my habitat because that's where I live, or the park, or the street, where I meet my friends. That's also my habitat. Well, not only do people have habitats, but animals have habitats too, where they live. We're going to talk a little bit about the habitats today. First, let's review some of the other things that we always review throughout the morning. And one is the numbers. Remember the numbers? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Today, we're going to talk about 8 different habitats. 8 different habitats. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 different habitats. Do you remember our days of the week? Our days of the week are Sunday, or we can start with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we could say on Monday we're going to visit the grassland, and on Tuesday we're going to visit the desert. On Wednesday we're going to visit the jungle, and on Thursday we're going to visit the forest. What is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Friday we'll visit the mountain, and this is gonna be hard. On Saturday we'll visit the polar region. That's gonna be super exciting. And then on Sunday we'll visit the lake. That leaves us the sea. Well, we could have done the sea or the ocean on Saturday, go swimming. That would have been fun. So those are the days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have the months of the year. Remember the months of the year? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. These are the months of the year. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. These are the months of the year. Okay? Those are the months. The month right now is May. Yes, we begin a new month, May. And the weather is getting warmer. We're still getting some rain. Not so much rain as last month. In the month of April, we got a lot of rain. It rained a lot. The weather was always cloudy and rainy. Now, the weather is sunny. It's sunny. There's a few clouds today, but more or less it's sunny. And it's beautiful, beautiful weather. Very warm. And now we can go out in the street a little bit, take walks. And that's always lots of fun. Okay, so now we're talking today about habitats. Habitats. Now, this is a list of the different habitats that we have. Let's review some of these habitats. The first one is grassland. Grassland. Now, in the grassland, it's grass, no? Where you see lots of grass and lots of leafy plants that animals can eat. It's usually a place where animals can run and run very fast. And what are some different animals that live in the grassland or have their habitat in the grassland? Well, one animal that loves the grassland is a rabbit. The rabbit loves the grassland, and one reason is the rabbit loves to run. The rabbit can run. I don't know if the rabbit runs. Does a rabbit run or does a rabbit hop? I think a rabbit actually hops, but the rabbit hops very, very, very fast. And so a rabbit will live in the grassland. Another animal that you often see in the grassland, maybe not in Humia, but in Michigan, or if you go to Cathorla, or if you go to other regions, in the grassland you'll see deer. Lots of deer. And the deer love the grassland because they want to eat lots of grass, and also deer run very fast. And so if you don't run very fast in the grassland for an animal could be a dangerous place. But if you're able to run or hop very fast like the rabbit, the grassland is safer because you can quickly go to safety if there is danger. Okay? So this is grassland. Can you repeat the word? Grassland. Grassland. The next one here is desert. Desert. Now the desert is a very dry and during the day a very hot place. In the desert there's not a lot of water and it rains very, very little. They don't get a lot of rain. And so during the day in the desert it's very hot, and at nighttime when the sun goes down it's very cold. It's very, very, very cold in the desert. So it's very difficult for animals to live in the desert. To live in the desert has to be a special kind of animal that can live in the desert. An animal that can live with very, very little water, or live with very little water for a period of time. What are some animals that live in a desert? Well, one animal that can live in the desert is a camel. And there's one type of wild camel that actually lives in China or lives in Mongolia. And this animal is called a camel. Okay, camels can live in the desert because they can store their water. They have like water tanks on their back, and they can store water back there, and it helps them survive. Okay. Another animal that can live in the desert fairly well is a snake. Snakes can live in the desert fairly well, or certain snakes, not all snakes, but you'll find different snakes in the desert. Okay, so we have grassland and desert. Here's another habitat, and this habitat is called the jungle. Now the jungle is a place that receives lots of water, usually receives lots of water, and there's lots of plants, there's lots and lots of animals in the jungle. And usually the temperature of the jungle is warm or hot. And it's very, very humid. There's lots of water there. What kind of animals could live in the jungle? Well, I think a couple animals that can live in the jungle would be like a tiger. A tiger could live in the jungle. Or a gorilla could live in the jungle. Monkeys could live in the jungle. Yes, it's a beautiful place, but maybe a bit dangerous. Yes, so we have grassland, desert, jungle. Here's another habitat, and this habitat is called the forest. The forest. And in the forest is a beautiful habitat. When I was a little boy, I grew up in the forest. My parents had a beautiful home in the forest, and I grew up there. So I'm quite comfortable in different forests. But the forest is also a habitat, not just for when I was a little boy in my house, but also for animals. Many animals live in the forest. In the forest too, you'll get quite a bit of rain. They need rain for the trees and for the grass. Maybe not as much as a jungle, but more rain than a desert. So quite a bit of rain. And what animals will live in the forest? Well, just like you have deer in the grassland, deer will live in the forest. They will live in the forest for protection, and then they go to the grassland to eat. But there's other animals that live in the forest too. For example, an owl. An owl will live in the forest. The owl will go, who are you? The owl will live in the forest. Or another animal that could live in the forest. Lots of birds live in the forest, like a cardinal will live in the forest. Lots of mice live in the forest. Squirrels will live in the forest. Raccoons live in the forest. Many animals. Foxes live in the forest. Many animals live in the forest. Sometimes even bears live in the forest. In Michigan, we have black bears. And where do the black bears live? Well, black bears live in the forest because they can climb trees and they like to eat the berries. And sometimes in the forest you have different rivers, and the bear will catch fish in the river. Another habitat is the mountain. The mountain. Now, the mountain habitat is very similar to what we will have in Humia. Humia has quite a few beautiful mountains. And grassland, Humia has some grassland, but not too much. Desert, it gets a little close to desert, but really we have some beautiful mountains. And that's a habitat for animals. And different mountains are in wet areas where they get more rain, and so they have more grass and trees and vegetation. And there's other mountains where they have, maybe it's more of an arid, it's a drier atmosphere, and so they have less grass. So here I have a green mountain, and some of the mountains in Humia are green. But there's other mountains that are very rocky, and it's more difficult for an animal to live on a rocky mountain than a grassy mountain. What are some different animals that have a mountain habitat? They have their home in the mountain. Well, we can look in Humia. What are some of the animals that live in the mountains of Humia? Well, I know two animals that live in the mountains of Humia. One is a goat. Yes. One day I was walking in the mountain and I saw, I don't know, maybe 5 different wild goats. And they were living in the mountain. Yes, the mountain is their habitat. Yes, another animal that lives in the mountain is the boar. And the boar is a big, powerful animal, and he loves the mountain. So the two animals that I know here in Humia are the goat and the wild boar. And they love to live in the mountains of Humia. Another habitat here is the polar habitat. Now the polar habitat is very, very cold. We have the polar in the north and in the south of our planet. And we have one in the North Pole and in the South Pole. And there's lots of ice, there's lots of snow, and it's a very, very difficult area for animals to live. But there are special animals that live in the polar habitat. Do you know of any of the animals that live in the polar habitat? I think you do. One animal that I thought of was the polar bear. Yeah, he's a big white bear, and he loves the cold, and he loves the polar habitat. He loves the cold, he loves to fish, and there's lots of fish in the polar region, and that's where he lives. The polar bear lives in the polar habitat. Another interesting animal that lives in the polar habitat is the penguin. The penguin also loves to live in the cold area, and even though the penguin is a bird, it can't fly. And that's an interesting animal, it's an interesting bird. But the penguin mainly lives at the South Pole. Okay, the penguins mainly live in the south, but it's in the polar habitat, and they also like fish. No, they also eat lots of fish. Okay, so we have the grassland habitat, desert habitat, jungle habitat, forest habitat, the mountain habitat, the polar habitat. Now we have the lake habitat. Lake habitat. Now, what animals live in the lake, or sometimes we can even call it the river, because quite often when you have a lake, the river goes into the lake and leaves the lake. So quite often you'll find a river connected to the lake. And what animals live in the lake habitat? Well, one is the frog. Yeah, the frog loves the lake because the frog needs water to survive, not just to drink, but its skin is very wet and moist and soft, and it needs that water to maintain its life. And so when you're near the rivers or lakes, you find lots of frogs. Yeah, they love living in this habitat. It's perfect for them. Another animal would be the fish. Lots of fish live in the rivers and the lakes. And there's different kinds of fish. Salmon, bass, trout. Lots of fish, and they just love the lake and river habitat. So sometimes the bears come out of the forest and they come over to the river or the lake, and they're looking for fish to hunt. Yes. And then the last one we have is the ocean. The ocean habitat. The ocean habitat is for the animals that live in the ocean. And these are animals that swim. What are some different animals that live in the ocean or in the sea? Lots of them. We have whales, we have sharks, we have jellyfish, we have fish, all kinds, and hundreds of different types of things. Like clams also live in the ocean habitat, or crabs or lobsters. They love this type of a habitat, and then they can go onto the land, to the beach, and they go back into the water. Two animals that I was thinking of was the jellyfish. The jellyfish is a very interesting creature, and the shark. The shark loves his ocean habitat. Yes. So let's review a little bit the habitats. Here we have the grassland habitat, the desert habitat. Maybe you can repeat it with me. Grassland, 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 desert, 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 jungle, 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 forest, 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 mountain, 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 polar, 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 lake and river, lake and river, ocean, ocean, ocean habitats. Okay? Well, that's it for the habitats, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.